Yeah, fantastic one. Talk about opportunities, great opportunities give you a chance to make great memories as well. So not only, yeah, of course, what's attached to the game from a financial point of view for the football club, of course, it's talked about heavily. But for me, you know, the opportunity of going back to the Premier League with our football club, and for the players, the opportunity of pitting themselves against players, the best players in the world.
How much are you relishing managing Sheffield United at Wembley?
Yeah, it's going to be a proud moment for, I should imagine, for anybody in my position. Mayor Street connection for the football club to lead the club out at Wembley Stadium. I should imagine in front of, you know, close to if not over 80,000 supporters. One of the biggest games in world football, as people talk about. It's a great honour and privilege and responsibility. But got to do my job right, and that's the first and foremost, and we're here to win. We talked about it at length. I know you've obviously been here locally as well. Talked about the reset after the Burnley game, which was really important, giving players valuable minutes, resting a few players, resetting physically, but most importantly resetting mentally. And I've been absolutely delighted in terms of the reaction that we've got from the Burnley game. You know, I should imagine the narrative was a negative one. And then you have to pile on all the stuff that everybody locally and possibly nationally talks about our playoff record, but that's not touched us one bit. One single ounce of that has not gone into my thinking or the players' thinking. They're ultra positive, they're focused, they're excited as well, and they're really looking forward to the challenge of going to Wembley and hopefully getting that win that we're all after.
You've managed at this stadium before, you've won here, so what is it like winning at Wembley?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a place for losers, is it? You know, watching the cup final last weekend, and you saw the contrast between, you know, arguably one of the best teams in the country over the past 10 years against an outsider, and the joy and the elation of Crystal Palace. We've got some connections there with Dean Henderson, obviously. Delighted for Dean, and the disappointment and the pain that Manchester City feel, even though they've won everything that's to be won in European football and domestic football. It hurts, so it's no place to lose, as everybody talks about. A lot of people talk about, you know, it's the best way to go up. I've been consistent with that. I would have rather have gone up automatically, but we were given an opportunity and we've taken it, and we have another opportunity awaiting us on Saturday afternoon.
Have you been too busy, or have you had 5 minutes to drop Dean Henderson a text?
Yeah, I have actually. Yeah, I've got one back as well. So yeah, delighted for Dean. He was outstanding on the day, and he was a major player in terms of them lifting the trophy, and it was good to see as well. I thought from a neutral's point of view, Newcastle winning in the Carabao Cup and Crystal Palace winning in the FA Cup as well. I think it's good.
What's been your message to the players this week, and how have you tried to manage them ahead of this game?
No, I haven't had to manage them at all. They're focused. You know, we're always looking and getting the feel right to the week after. You know, 2 great performances, a memorable night at Bramall Lane last Monday. You know, I've got to say, when I look back at that evening, the noise, the energy that the supporters gave us, the feel of it was incredible. One of the best nights I've witnessed as anything regarding as a player, supporter and manager at Bramall Lane. I know that's been said by a lot of people. There's a load of energy around this football club at the moment, and we have to take that into Saturday. But no, you know, we have to get the preparation right. We have to get the detail right. That's really important. As I've said, one of my old favourites, and I imagine the players are a little bit bored of me saying it. You know, I think everybody wants to win. Some want to win more than others, but it's how you prepare for these situations. Physically, we're in a good shape. We've got everybody available, which is fantastic news. They're all knocking on the door. They're all putting their hand up to play, which I'm not surprised about. So physically, we're in a great place from availability point of view. Tactically, we've got to find a way to get the job done, to execute the game plan. Technically, we've got really good players. That's the good thing about it. I've got a real good group of players that can produce big moments, that can keep clean sheets, that can play on the big stage, big occasion. and the mentality has been really consistent. So I'm enjoying watching the players. I'm liking where they're at the moment. There's no guarantees, of course, but I don't think we could have prepared any better, and we're ready.
You've got a lot of options. You know your team.
Yeah, of course, yeah. We've worked on that, but I think the way modern football is now, Rob, is the use of your substitutions. We've always been proactive in terms of our substitutions. There's always, a go-to if we're chasing a game or needed to change it up, or if we need to see a game out. I think that's the modern way. Usage of the substitutions got a vital part to play. Just looking at the last 2 games that we've played, the substitutes have had an impact. I was a little bit critical towards sort of the back end of the season in terms of the impact that maybe the substitute should have made, but now they're really making an impact. So everybody's got a part to play, and everybody had a part to play since the start of the season. So I've not wavered from that. I've not wavered from how we are as a football club. We're an all-in football club. It's not about you. It's about what happens with the group and the team, and the group wins and the group loses. But we're in a good place. We've won 30 games out of 48 this season, so we're a winning football team. We're going for wins. I think 63-64% win ratio this season. So we know how to win, and that has got to be our focus on Saturday. We're going to go for a win and back ourselves.
Michael Cooper spoke a little earlier, and he said when he joined the club, it really helped him having a manager who knew Sheffield United and what it was all about. How do you impart your knowledge and experience of this club onto new signings, and can that knowledge and experience help in a week like this?
Well, the recruitment part of it, of course, is part data driven, but part feel, subjective and objective as well. So we do our homework on players, and we bring players here who we believe can be a success, and he's certainly been a huge success for us. And we bring players to the football club for days like Saturday. Of course, we would have loved to have gone up automatically, and I've said it consistently. The 2 teams above us have had an incredible season, and I certainly don't see it as a failure. I know some people think that, but I certainly don't, in terms of the challenges that we've had to overcome right the way through, and we've talked at length in here previously about it. So 92 points wasn't enough. 101 might not have been enough. The way those 2 have gone about it, so maybe credit to them, and maybe taking a little bit of negativity away from us. I believe, especially with the challenges that we've had to face, and maybe both the other clubs have had big challenges, of course, but maybe not on the scale of what we've had to cope with. But that's it. That's done and dusted. And as I said, we've got an opportunity on Saturday. But these players come to this football club for big days, big games, big occasions, and they don't come any bigger than Saturday.
Just one final one on Cooper. He was asked how he described his style of goalkeeping, and he said it chilled. Is that resonating with what he said?
Yeah, I like it. I mean,
it help having a goalkeeper who's quite chilled.
Well, I've gone from one extreme to the other, haven't I, really, in terms of having the lunatic in goal for us for 2 seasons, who was absolutely outstanding, and I love him to pieces. I think he's, for me, the best goalkeeper in the country. Every time I send him a message, he always say England's number 1, how are you? And he always comes back in a positive fashion. And Michael's completely different to it. So, listen, ideally, the job is to keep the ball out the back of the net, is to be calm, is to make big saves, in big moments when they have to, and they've both done that. Michael's contribution to the team this year has been outstanding. It was a smart signing for us, and Michael's grown and grown, and hopefully this is just another step up for him. He certainly can play at the highest level, and that's what we're all aiming to do come Saturday night.
Chris Kavanagh's the referee. 193 yellow cards, 7 reds this season. Do you talk to your players about that?
We know he's a respected Premier League referee, so I've not really gone into the detail regarding yellows and reds. Of course, the sort of landscape's changed in terms of the VAR being involved at the weekend. We had Craig Pawson in at the football club on Monday to go through certain situations and certain scenarios as well. So I was thankful for that option that we had. So we talked to him because the game at that level and refereeing at Premier League level is a different one to Championship football. So, but we have to play the game cleanly. We have to be disciplined in our approach, but we have to be competitive. So challenging both that competitive aspect, emotional approach as well, because it has to be. There has to be that fire in your belly, and no doubt there will be. There's no need, I don't ever feel I have to motivate my players to pull on our red and white shirt. I might have to do it now and again at half time, give them a little bit of a poke. But this group has been motivated right the way through. So getting the balance right between nice and calm and cool and playing our game and playing in the flow that we have played recently, to being competitive and wanting to win. So we've got to get that balance right. I think that's said in any big game and any final, that the team that handles the occasion and plays the game is going to come out on top, and we've certainly got to do that.
What kind of game do you expect against Sunderland?
I don't know. I can go on how they played at the start of the season. I could go on how they played at their place, or I could go on in the last two games. So, everybody has a way of playing. So we have to prepare for both aspects. As I said, all three games. Two of the three games have been different, and I don't know how this game's going to pan out. If I was going off the Coventry game, you've seen it. So if they sit in, then we have to break them down. But they've played against us at their place, where we missed a penalty and we made a couple of mistakes, and they punished us, and we pushed. Second half, we weren't strong enough. I think one of the things that I've talked about is when you talk about substitutions and strength in depth. I look at our bench that day, and basically it was an under-21 bench, so that had to be dealt with in January, which certainly have. I think if you look at our bench now, especially at the weekend, it'll be completely different one to the one that was on the 1st of January. And the home game, they started off very well. Watch them play, the young side, and they've got plenty of energy and plenty of personality, and they've got quality. They've got threats all over the pitch, because they wouldn't have got the points that they've got if they weren't a good side. And I think the same with us. We wouldn't have got 92 points if we had not done a lot of things right. So they've done a lot of things right, so I'll respect that. But we've done a lot of things right as well, so we have to make sure that we're bang at it, and we execute our game plan, whatever is put in front of us.
I appreciate this is not going to have any impact on the game itself, but 14 points difference between the two teams. Has never been a bigger gap between two playoff finalists ever, going back to 1988. Does that speak to, if nothing else, the achievement of this season at Sheffield United, and now it's just a case of finishing the job?
100%. Yeah, we can take confidence that we've been consistently good right the way through the season, apart from one daft week really. And as I said, we'd have won 2 out of 3 games. That might still not have been enough. So we can take confidence and belief of that we've been pretty good all season, and we need to be pretty good in the biggest game of the lot. We were excellent in both semi-finals, so we've reset, as we talked about. The performance at Stoke was good. I believe we did enough to beat Blackburn at home on the last game of the season. So currently we're playing well. We feel the field is aflow to us. There's a confidence and belief. We can keep a clean sheet and we can score. So, and we know we're going to have to be, excellent in a lot of departments on Saturday. And if we did, then it makes our job more difficult. But go and execute that game plan. It's obviously the plan was after the Burnley game to reset, get ourselves right, plan for it, and then go and execute it. And we've executed the first bit. Now we're going to have to execute the biggest bit.
Finally, you've had a few. Would this be your best promotion?
I think we'll talk about that afterwards, Rob. Every promotion's special, whatever it's been, whether it's the one at Wembley when I was a young manager at Oxford United, and or whether it was, the others that I've had. Everyone has got a special memory, of course, and but we've put ourselves in the position, not just me, but the club. That's the most important thing, the club to get promoted. And off the back of that, you know, I've always there's stories, that people want to talk about certain individuals and players and managers or whatever, and I'll be happy to talk about that afterwards. But knowing that I've got to be a good football manager on Saturday afternoon, we've done well so far, but there's no medals handed out to us because we've been pretty good all season. That'll be happening on Saturday afternoon if we're good. The players good individually and we're good as a collective. And we do the business and get that win that we're all after. As I said, there's an enormous amount of energy around the place. I feel it living in the city as well. I know people want to talk about the negativity of the playoffs, but I've not felt that one bit at all. You know, I think we're close to, if not sold out, which is, I think, testament to the belief that the supporters have got. The energy and the atmosphere in the second leg was as best I've felt as a Sheffield United supporter, player and manager, and we need to bring it all together on Saturday afternoon to get that win, and then I'll be absolutely delighted to talk about another promotion, but still a job to do.
Thanks for your time, Chris.
Cheers, Rob. Thank you.
Hi, Chris.
Hey.
It's two huge clubs, historic clubs as well, at Wembley. This is a great advert for the English game, right?
Yeah, 100%. You know, Sunderland, incredibly well supported football club. You know, we watched the second game at home to Coventry. The atmosphere was absolutely electric, and the energy and the support that their supporters gave their players was incredible. Two tough games against Coventry City. I think Frank will be a little bit disappointed, and Coventry City maybe have not to have got that win, but that's what happens over two games. They found a way to win, and they'll want to find a way to win on Saturday afternoon. So yeah, two big clubs, and going head to head in a sea of red and white on Saturday afternoon.
You mentioned like they played completely different ways this season, Sunderland as well. But what do you make of that squad? Because it's full of young players as well. Maybe without too much experience, maybe lacking a bit of fear as well, maybe.
Well, it's both ways. You don't know, do you? Unless you've got a crystal ball.
No, I don't.
Well, who knows? So who knows how it rocks up? You know, it's a new occasion for them. We've got a certain amount of experience which we can fall back on. Some of our players played in big games. You know, Callum's played in semi-finals of the FA Cup. Gus has played in in playoff games. They've all played in big games, even locally. You know, that's quite a big game for the young players, the likes of Sidney Peck and Cooper, who's not played in no type of games, and Harrison Burrows. So they've all witnessed it and felt it. But as I said, it's about what happens on the day and who deals with everything that gets thrown into what is a huge football match. So yeah, they've got some talented players. They've got some young players, but they've got some experience as well. You know, they've got Mepham and they've got Ballard and they've got some other guys. You know, the captain's an experienced player, and Patrick Roberts has been around the block and he's a good player. Alan Brown's involved with them as well. So yeah, it can work both ways. We've got a pretty young side as well, so with that sprinkling of experience. So both teams are balanced. Yeah, of course they're the youngest of the two teams, and possibly one of the youngest teams in the championship, and they've done remarkably well to get themselves in the position, and they can be very proud of their efforts.
You mentioned Callum O'Hare there, and yeah, he had that experience at Wembley in that semi-final. I mean, he's got that extra level of resilience though, and I guess in these sorts of situations, having that in your locker, something to fall back on, can give you something extra at this sort of moment, right?
I don't think that they need anything, I've got to say. I certainly don't. I'm struggling to express how much that it means to all of us. And whatever story that they have, well, it's Callum's story that his experiences at Wembley or mine being locally or other players that want to go and achieve or want to go and play in the Premier League. Can't really express how much this will mean to us. But we got to channel all that. We got to harness all that to make sure that we're right and we're nice and calm and we're focused and we play as best we can individually and as a team. And as I said, the stories afterwards will all come out. And I think basically it's only you guys that want to obviously pick up these stories, and I get that, and that's the job, and that's the media. So I understand that, but we've all got you know, an ambition and an aim and a dream to play in the Premier League and to get to the Premier League. And we got close, and then we have that ability with the opportunity of the playoffs and going to Wembley on Saturday.
How different are you from the manager who took on to United at Wembley? Because I watched back some of that. You look quite similar actually, but how much have you changed as a manager since then?
Well, I think every experience you have to learn from. So, in terms of, as I've just said, personally, my desire and ambition and commitment is as big as it's ever been. The fire in me is as bright as it's ever been, as you can imagine as well, with the connections. But you know, you learn right the way through your career, and I don't think you're ever too old to stop learning through every experience. And you know, I'm learning stuff now that's new to me, that can improve me and it can improve our staff and it can improve ultimately our football club. So, you know, I've not got all the answers. I've never said I had. I'm not arrogant enough to think that, you know, I've been there, you know, seen it and done it all. Because football's not like that. You know, there's been down days as well, and there's been a couple of stints personally that, you know, I don't think personally my career should be defined by. But you know, I think if you're from this part of the world, you know, when you do get poked a little bit, you want to come roaring back and swinging. So certainly, I've got that in the locker, and the club has as well. From last year, a disappointing year, even though we were incredibly undercooked in terms of at the start of the season and the recruitment and losing 2 players, our best 2. So it was a real difficult situation for Paul and the players going into an unforgiving league. And you know, you get not found out, because we didn't get found out, because basically, you know, the team at the start of the season was underprepared and undercooked. So it was always going to be an incredible struggle. So you have to feel that pain. You have to own that, and you do what you do best, which is come fighting back. And we've certainly done that right the way through the season, from the start where we were short on players, where we got the players in, to all the other stuff that we talked about, change of ownership that we've had to deal with, and change of style, and obviously, you know, it goes without saying, the loss of an incredibly popular player at our football club.
Finally, what's it been like for you this week, given that you are a fan as well and you've got connections here everywhere? What's your experience been like this week? Yeah,
it's been all right. It doesn't change. It doesn't change. It's just that the stakes get ramped up a little bit higher. But you know, if we were playing a pre-season game, I'd still be getting the same noise and nonsense from people around me. That's excluding family, of course. But that's how it is. That's what you live for, what you strive for, what you have to deal with, and I've had to deal with it for quite a long time. So another week, yeah, is just another week in the life of me managing my football club.
Thank you. Good luck.
Cheers. Thank you.
Hi Chris, just to touch on your point made about George there. I mean, people talk about, trying to frame this in the right way, but people talk about your team's getting a sort of 12th man from the crowd. You almost feel a little way that you've sort of got that with George's sort of spirit behind you. I'm trying not to be too sort of cliche about that.
Yeah, I mean, like Sunderland. Yeah, I mean, Sunderland are going to have their. You know, every club's got their own. Will have their own stories. Of course, this is a story that, you know, it's not fabricated. It's not false. It's not real. This is somebody that was an incredibly popular player for the football club, that some of the players that are still with us played with and lived 9-10 months of their lives with. I've talked about from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night, to getting on that train, to getting in that hotel room, to sharing a dressing room with daily, to sharing a pitch with. So these are all things that have happened to us, and I think the club and the players have handled it incredibly well, and gone about it the right way. Remembering George, of course, which is really important, and you know, it won't be the be all and end all. You know, it won't be anybody's fault if we don't get the result we want, and it won't be, you know, this is the reason if we do get the result that we want. But it's just part of what happens and part of life, and unfortunately people lose their lives, and this is things that happen, and there's sad stories to go with happy stories. But hopefully we can remember George, which we have done so far this season in an incredibly positive way on Saturday afternoon. You're going to have to ask the players in terms of what motivation it gives them. I think they'll have their own motivation, but it's with us, as you said, and we're proud of his contributions to our football club, and incredibly sad that he's not with us.
Yeah. As we all know, this competition has not been kind to supporters in the past, has it? But this is a fresh group, isn't it? There seems to be a sort of different mood around the place this time, amongst the fans, amongst the players, and amongst yourself. What would the message to the supporters to go into this?
No, I think they've basically answered everything from my point of view. Away from home in the playoffs, even the Stoke City game, the atmosphere in the away end, the home game was a sellout. It was a fabulous environment to play football with in the last game of the season. The two playoff games took care of themselves, and they were incredibly supportive and gave us a load of energy, and they will do Saturday afternoon. And as I said, I think we're close to, if not sold out, and maybe that's the biggest sort of compliment really that you can give. And maybe if they didn't feel that and didn't show that belief and didn't think that we can do it, because it's difficult, because prices and Wembley and travel and everything else connected, it's additional. And but they'll be with us, and they'll give us the backing. And all I can go on is what they've been like with me in my career here since 2016. Incredible. We've tried to give them some memories, but they've given me some incredible memories as well, personally, and the team, and the backing that we've had. Of course, there's always some down days or whatever that you have to deal with, but this has been a real positive football club for going on 9 years now. It's been a real big successful era when you will look back at it, and we just want to add that to it, and reward them as well as realising our own ambitions and dreams.
Yeah, I'm sure there were a lot of pundits looking at Palace's celebrations last weekend with a bit of jealousy, because I imagine there's not many still around who've seen United win at Wembley. That would be a pretty good memory to give them 100 years on from the last one. Yeah,
there's loads of things in there. There's loads of backstories to it, but for me, I've said to you, Dan, that the club's going to be around for another 139 years or whatever it is, and we will win a playoff campaign. And so there's one in front of us, and we've took a big step towards doing that with the performances and the results in the playoff games. Now we need to make that biggest leap now, which is obviously get a win for everybody concerned.
Yeah, you've obviously got options in your squad. You've got match winners there. You've got a lot of options there off the bench. But what you've got is not just players who've played at Wembley. They've experienced success at Wembley, haven't they? You've got Tim Gus and Callum have scored there. Hamza's won there. Rob Holding's won there. It's not just experiencing it and maybe having negative moments. It's going there and winning. Could that be a big thing?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you've lost there, you want to put it right, don't you? If you've won there, you want the same experience. So I've not been caught up in any of that. And as I said, the energy that there's been around the place, it just feels different. It feels totally different. Yeah, and I went to Cardiff, and I went, and I went to Wembley when we got beat against Burnley. I didn't go to Huddersfield, but I've been to, semi-finals as well. So that's part of the journey. And I get it, and I understand that as soon as the final whistle went against Burnley, that it would come flowing out, and I get that. But all I can say honestly is how the players have been, how they've attacked the playoffs, how they attacked the last two games, positivity in their approach and their play, how they attacked the two playoff games, and how we're going to go after the final game in North London on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, it's finally from me. You touched on VAR. Obviously, you played 48 league games this season plus cup without VAR in the last one. You've got it. Do you agree with that?
I was pro VAR when it first come out. I think there's obviously been sort of stumbles with it along the way. We'd all like it to be better than maybe what it is at the moment. So hopefully VAR doesn't come into into action on Saturday afternoon, and if it does, everybody gets the correct decision, because that's all we're after. We're after correct decisions, and if it plays its part as it is or was meant to be or brought into the game to be, then is that the ball over the line? That is the referee in it. He's not Villa Park, is he? Yeah. So you just want decisions, good decisions to be made, and surely, I'm sure, with Chris's experience and quality and the whole world looking on, that he'll play a part in managing the game correctly.
Just make sure he switches the all card.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks.
Thank you. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Stu.
Obviously, it's been a change of style this season and a different way of doing things. How much has that helped you in terms of just refreshing you a little bit?
100%. Yeah, it's a great question and a great point. Yeah, it has. We talked about it. The club was built on, obviously, for a number of years, a successful system to get up for 2 promotions and the Premier League, but we felt it was time for a change. I felt it was time for a change for the supporters as well as myself and Al and the coaches to coach a different way. I do always have a smile on my face when people think that we're just a one-trick pony, because we're not. We've had successes in terms of coaching different formations right the way through our careers as well, at different levels. So we get those coaching qualifications because we don't just play one way, but that way suited the football club at the time. And then when you get into a recruitment sort of situation, you end up not buying wingers, so we had to change the whole attitude around recruitment as well, to bring in wingers to play the way that we wanted to play, and I've really enjoyed it. It's an early build, as we talked about. We've not been going for 2 or 3 years, or we've not had sort of 4 or 5 windows to refine it and get it better. And I think as well, Stu, the Championship, when you're playing Saturday, Tuesday, there's not much time to get ourselves out on the grass and talk through different ways of playing this, or sort of refine it or improve it. It really is sort of improving it on a match day. Usually the biggest thing from a Championship point of view is recovery and go again from a physical point of view. So yeah, we're early on in that, and I've been delighted the way that the players have took to it. They're the biggest ones. If they're not having you, and if they're not having your messages or don't want to listen to their messages, then we would be halfway down the league or maybe going out of the division. But they've took to it. They enjoy the way we play. I like to think, and we've had success off the back of it.
And when you have had success and you come away and you come back, how difficult is it to not just try and do the same again, not just in terms of formations, but looking for a goalkeeper with Dean Henderson's personality rather than one with Michael Cooper's?
Yeah.
Do you have to sort of fight that temptation to sort of recreate the last spell when you first came back?
I think the game changes and moves on, as it has done since I first started coaching to what it is now. I think maybe the players of this generation might not feel it, and my players might not feel it. But I think if you speak to Al, I'm a little bit softer and we're a little bit more gentle with the players. But still, the non-negotiables are there, and they will be there to the day I hang up me sheepskin coat or whatever it is now that they talk about. So non-negotiables are massive for us in terms of the work ethic in the team, the honesty in the team, the competitive aspect of the team. I see that at top level. So if it's good enough for top level, and I did a bit when we played Liverpool in the Premier League and talked about how they played more longer balls than us, how they won more first balls and second balls and more crossed it more than anybody, and won more duels, and that was Liverpool, under Jurgen at their very, very best. So if it was good enough for them, there's always different ways of playing. I think you've seen as well. We're flexible in terms of how we want to play. Maybe the game at the moment is not as flexible as that. Teams stick to one way of playing. We like to, or try to, for the majority of times, cause different problems to different teams in terms of how they approach it and how they set up. And I think that's okay, and I'm comfortable with that, and the players are comfortable with that. But yeah, I mean, I think that I'm not going to deviate too much in terms of my personality and how I want the team to play, and more importantly, how I want a Sheffield United player to look and how I want a Sheffield United team to look. So whether you play 4-2-3-1, whether your goalkeeper is a rock star or is a librarian, whatever, however you want to go about it, the supporters are the biggest people that we have to make sure that we connect with. And I'm certain there's been a connection there. They've enjoyed the way we played. I think that they'll have been a little bit frustrated at times the way we've played, just as much as us, because I still think there's work to be done. But doing the work on the job and winning on the job is always key, and we're always here to win, and that will be always my biggest ambition whenever we step out. Of course you want to play well, and of course if you play well 9 times out of 10, then you give yourself a better opportunity. But the game's about winning, and I've talked about, we've won 30 games out of 48. Win record this season 63%. We want to make it 31 wins out of 49, and we want to nudge that win percentage up, because that, for me, that's what we're in the game to do. We're in the game to win, and we're going to try and do that on Saturday.
And you talk about those non-negotiables, and I think we all know that they weren't all there last season in terms of the group you inherited. How much did you have to sort of bite your tongue and wait for the summer to reset things in terms of that side of it?
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. And I said, no, I don't think there's any blame on the previous manager as well. The team weren't ready 100%, and maybe sometimes people need to look a little bit deeper into that than maybe they are. I think it's easy to blame the players and straight away, but the team wasn't ready, and it was a difficult situation for the football club. Without going too deep into it, we had to own that, whether it's Paul as manager or me in the second part of the season had to own that as well. But yeah, of course, I used to go home and think, I can't wait. I think we all knew really it come to a stage where we've had to perform miracles to sort of get ourselves out of the position that we're in. You just wanted a few more bright moments really, and give the supporters a few more better days than what they had. But we unfortunately weren't able to do that. So even though the challenge was big in terms of turning the amount of players round, in a way, what I will say is that I was a little bit blessed that I had that ability to do that, to let a lot of players go and to move a lot of players on, and to let a lot of players go back from their loans and reset and rebuild.
So in terms of the sort of mental reset, without giving away too many trade secrets, what did you have to do? And is it a case of you have to do a lot of work early on and then sort of leave it to police itself? Or?
Yeah, setting the tone with your messages in training, your attitude when you speak to the players, what you believe they are, what part they can play at this football club. Going speaking to all those players, whether they're loan signings or whether they're Callum Wares or Kiefer Moores, and all those Michael Coopers and Harrison Burrows, what they can achieve here and how I want them to go about it, what they've done at their previous clubs that has attracted them to us, and for us to take them to the next level, in my opinion, and they have to come back with something as well. I always remember meeting Tyrese in an hotel in Manchester and talking to him, and really coming away really positive in terms of the messages that he was talking about and his attitude towards resetting. And we were quite frank and firm in that conversation where his career was going and what he needed to do, and we'd give him every help and every opportunity to realise what he can do. And so it's always a two-way thing, Stu. We'll try and help, give them the messages, try and bring that group together. Certain things we do, of course, that we do internally to grow that. But always the biggest part of this is the player and their attitude towards wanting to achieve and wanting to perform and win. And Tyrese was a great example of that. When I walked away from that, we tried to sign him a few years ago, Unfortunately, we couldn't get that one over the line, but then we had another golden opportunity to do it this summer. We took that opportunity, and he's one of a number of real smart signings that we made in the summer.
And we know you're a big fan of Callum O'Hare. You always tell us about how many minutes he's played this season. He came in earlier, and
did he like run around for like 20 minutes before he sat down?
We just accosted for
yeah.
20 minutes. But in terms of the way he's been the last couple of weeks, has he gone up in your estimation, the way he's been since he's been?
No, I'm just not surprised, and I'm not surprised in any of them, because that's what he's expected. I suppose disappointment is when they don't do that, and you go, come on, this is not right, really, because this is not what we talked about at the start. Because we talked about there's no shoo-ins, there was no guarantees. Everybody's got to fight for a place. Everybody's showed that desire to get back into the team. With training standards, and when you have that opportunity to take that opportunity, every opportunity there in front of you is an opportunity to impress, and he's certainly done that. And his attitude has been first class. Of course, I see it. I see when I'm sat in the change room against Sheffield Wednesday, he wants to be starting. I get that. I think that Guardiola's having to talk about players. They all want to play, so they all have their different ways of dealing with that. But for me, the main aspect of that is showing the respect to your fellow players. I'm old enough to deal with, ranting and raving players and this, that, and the other. I'm okay with that. It shows that they care. I think I'd be more disappointed if they just shrugged their shoulders and started laughing and jumping through hoops when they weren't playing. But they have to do it in the right way. They have to make sure they respect the decision made. Because there's a reason, and they respect the player that is playing in their place and give them all the help that they can give, because when whoever was playing got that help and push and support from the other players that weren't playing at the time.
Thanks, Chris.
Cheers, Stu.
Hi there, Chris.
Hi.
Just a few from me. You were just mentioning earlier about the team was undercooked when it last got promoted to the Premier League, and bearing in mind, I think it's been more than £300 million have been spent by the three clubs that went up last season. Can you just articulate what gives you confidence that whether you get promoted on Saturday or in a future season, the cake won't be underbaked next time? Well,
all I can say is that the present owners have been, very, very supportive in terms of what they did in January. We needed to bring players in, and they backed that. I think if you look back at our team sheet on the 1st of January, you'll have seen some players that you won't have recognised. I think out of the 9 players, I think 7 of them were under 21 players that had hardly played any sort of minutes at first team level, and that's a top end championship game. So we were off it in terms of squad depth. I think it was quite remarkable we got to that situation as well. Being in that position, so we definitely needed the reinforcements, and the owners, Steve Rosen and Helme, supported me in terms of my ideas and suggestions to improve us in the second part of the season. So all I can say, not look too far ahead of myself, because I think that's a dangerous game to play as a football manager, and what will be. What will be, if we do manage to win on Saturday, I'm sure, if Sunderland manage to win on Saturday, they'll be having the same conversations as what we are in terms of what's needed in the summer. But I'm certainly not having those conversations just yet. I'm having the conversation about internally about how we need to prepare and get it right on Saturday afternoon.
Just one more question on the Premier League. How mind-boggling is it, though, to see those figures being bandied about? I mean, for example, this season you potentially would have had to end above Man United, Tottenham and West Ham just to stay in that division.
Yeah, it is. I think it's gone up level since my second season, the COVID season. The first season was absolutely incredible. I still don't think that gets the credit it sort of deserves, really, but that's how it is. Maybe because we're a little bit unfashionable, it goes away. Obviously, the second season was a really disappointing season, of course, but you learn your lessons in terms of what you have to do, and how you have to keep with the pack and improve. So, of course, people talk about the jump and the gap between. We'd love to be able to have that opportunity just as much as Sunderland will. And as I said, I answered a question the other week about when the door opens, you've got to be prepared to step in, and people can't talk about we might need another a season in the Championship. If we have another season in the Championship and we're not as good as what we are this year, we don't get that opportunity. So we've given ourselves an opportunity of bouncing back, and of course, when you look at the numbers involved, in mind-boggling. But I suppose if we do manage to get the result, I suppose being given a chance to be competitive is key, and then for us to find a way. And as I said, it'll be exactly the same for the Sunderland board and the Sunderland manager in terms of what they'll have to deal with.
In terms of prepping for Saturday, are there plans to go and visit Wembley just before? The players going to have a bit of a tour around there, or are you not going to bother with that?
No, we've tried to stick to as normal plan as possible. In terms of our build up, we had the weekend off. We're a 2-day lead up. We've got tomorrow off, and then 2 last training sessions, and down the road in our usual manner when we go and play at Wembley. Go and play in London, and then obviously travel up to Wembley, and we've got that opportunity of having a quick walk round Wembley Stadium. But it'll be a 5 or 10 minute walk. We have that opportunity given to us, and we'll take it, and then we'll be back in and rest and prepare for hopefully an incredible afternoon of Championship football.
Good luck, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks.
Just one on the back of that last question, Chris. Do you sort of smile ruefully to yourself or with amusement when you hear of managers getting their players to walk over hot coals or Ouija boards or whatever before they play at Wembley in the hope of finding some mystical power when most football matches are actually settled on the grass, aren't they?
Yeah, you've just got to get that right, haven't you? That's the top and bottom of it, and that's what we've tried to do, to prepare, to plan. To give the boys belief and confidence in what we've done so far this season, what we've done recently as well, form-wise. We played really well in both games. I know the scoreline maybe reflects a one-way scenario. It certainly wasn't that. We were tested, which I would have expected us to be as well, as were Sunderland. So it's what you do on the day, how you pull it all together, how you connect it all. And of course all those other things that are talked about, but you just got to focus on the game and make sure you play the game and not the occasion.
Just one last one on the George Baldock thing. Could you quantify just how powerful sort of the emotional energy you get from something like that is? The reason I ask is, I mean, you managed Watford, and about 10 years ago at Watford, a fan was kicked within an inch of his life at an away game at Wolverhampton, and the players used that sort of he was a milkman, and they wore T-shirts saying, I think his name was Nick for promotion, and it became a galvanising force where the players really harnessed it and used it as a motivation. As what happened to George given you a sort of, I'm not suggesting it's giving you a mystical power, but the emotional energy that the players got from that, and the chance sweeping around Bramall Lane last week against Bristol City were really quite moving, as well as being a racket. It's hard not to get harnessed by that. And do you think the players and the staff do get sort of an extra emotional energy from it?
Well, I certainly do, and I should imagine the players do. It was an incredible, powerful moment. As I said, I've had some incredible memories personally at Bramall Lane right the way through since I was a young boy, really. But that is by far and away the most emotional, powerful memory or situation or moment that I had at that particular moment. Of course, we were winning. Of course, it was a full house. So, yeah, that goes hand in hand, I suppose. But we've not tried to use it as a motivational. He's just been with us on the journey. I've talked about his shirt being in the home and away team dressing room right the way through. So yeah, of course it was an emotional afternoon after his passing at home to Stoke City. So yeah, we can just use, I think, examples of how George was as well, as a player and as a person as well. Incredibly motivated, driven, wanted to be the best, wanted to play at the highest level, wanted to achieve. And I think there's similarities as well with a lot of the players, you know, starting off in the lower leagues, your likes of your Coopers and your Burrows are similar to your Baldocks at Milton Keynes Dons and MK Dons and up to Sheffield United and then all of a sudden playing in the Premier League and all of a sudden being an international for Greece, and all those achievements weren't given, and I think that's our football club. We're never given anything. It's not an open checkbook. We have to fight for everything. Whatever we need, whatever we have to achieve, we have to really dig deep and fight tooth and nail to achieve stuff. So there's a good comparison there in terms of the attitude that I love to see in players, which I loved in George, and the attitude of our football club. And I think that goes hand in hand.
This might be one for Kev actually. Do you know if any of his family are going to be at Wembley on Saturday?
I've got to say no, I don't know. So yeah, I don't know.
Cool, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi Chris.
Hey Chris.
Excuse me. Just want to talk a bit about a couple of players. City Peck, who I think we all imagine has been running around like an excitable dog this week ahead of the match. Given that I imagine you probably put a lot of emphasis on Ollie Arblaster going into the start of the season, how much satisfaction do you get out of City Peck's progress, given he's effectively saved you millions of pounds, really, given you would have had to have gone into the transfer market to replace Ollie?
I think it's credit to City. He's seeing a teammate of his in the 21s all of a sudden sort of push ahead of him, and then playing the first team and captain the first team at Old Trafford, and the accolades and the narrative around Blasto was an important part of our start of our season with Suter. So to lose those two players was really disappointing. But City's always been around it. He's not always been a million miles off of it. And as always with young players, they just need that opportunity. What opens up, the combination at the time was Blaster and Vinny that went very, very well at the start of the season, and that opened it up for City to come in, and he stepped in and represented his country like Ollie has, and playing regular football, and deserves to be starting and playing in this team at the moment, because his performances have been outstanding. There's still a long way to go, as there is a lot for a lot of the academy boys, but as we talked about, and locally we're incredibly proud of our academy. I don't think any of the top sides are playing the young kids as we've done this season, so another challenge for us. So we have to be patient with them at times, because with young players, they're a little bit up and down. But I've got to say, City's been pretty consistent right the way through. His performances have been pretty good, and he's known that. He's had to play well to stay in the team. Good competition in there now with Tom Davis being available, Jamie Shackleton being available, Hamza can play in there as well. So he's had to fight off some good competition, but opportunities open up, and it's how you take those opportunities, and he's certainly done that, and deserving of all the positive talk that's been wrapped around him.
Just finally for me, another player, perhaps has maybe not got the kudos that he deserved. Kiefer Moore probably doesn't score as many goals as maybe people expect him to, but this past couple of weeks, and certainly in the semi-finals, I think we've probably seen what he's there for, like in terms of his all-round game, and obviously scoring as well. Has it been giving you a bit of extra satisfaction to see him really come?
He did that at the start of the season for us before he got injured. I always remember having a conversation with Tony Curry, and he was talking about, TC, how iconic he is, and what an incredibly talented footballer, he was a proper footballer. And then having a conversation, a cup of tea with him, and talking about the importance of Kiefer at the start of the season and how good he is. There was never a target for him. I've never put targets on centre forwards. Of course, I like them to score goals and create and assist and finish off, of course, because from a confidence level and what that gives them. But there was never anything that Kiefer Moore has to score 10 or 15 goals. Kiefer Moore has to be part of a winning football side, and he's been part of that winning football side at the start of the season. He had an issue with a hernia that we got to the bottom of. He pulled his calf at Millwall, and then he was out for a bit, and then he went in and had an hernia operation. I'd have loved to have him been available through that period, but he wasn't, and we got through it, and we were playing young Ryan, and we had other options at the top of the pitch. But to have Kiefer back is a great bonus, and however we play. You know, if you go direct into him, if he links it, if he runs down the side, I don't think he's ever going to be a Billy Sharp, Chris. But I'm not bothered about him being a Billy Sharp, even though I love Bill as well. I just want him to play a part in a successful football season, a football team, and he certainly did that at the start of the season. And most definitely, he's proven an incredibly important member. He was when we first signed him. It was a big signing for us at the start of the season. You know, the deal we did with Bournemouth in terms of, you know, Dan and Jefferson didn't want to stay, didn't want to sign a new contract. So to swap him, you know, virtually for a young player that didn't want to be here to somebody who wanted to be here was a great bit of business by Steve Bettis and the club to get him in, his experience, and if you look at it, he's got promotions on his CV. So you know, Kieran McKenna can't be wrong, Scott Parker can't be wrong. They've had him in and around, and that's the reason that we got him in, because good lad, good player, good pro, and a real good team player.